Before firearms dominated warfare, the blade ruled the battlefield. And, out of all the gleaming swords in history, from the saber to the broadsword, the katana of feudal Japan is by far the most iconic. The slender, razor-sharp sword is easily recognizable thanks to the popularity of the samurai, fierce warriors wrapped in menacing iron armor ready to die honorably on the battlefield. As the years went by, their katanas were made for swift, precise kills and became known as artistic masterpieces of death. You've seen katanas plenty of times on the silver screen and fought many imaginary battles with a plastic samurai sword in hand as a child. But, what do you really know about the elegant weapon made to cut through a human being with one strike? The katana is a legendary sword with a history worthy of dissection and discussion. Looking back at the blade's roots, the weapon was a loyal protector, leaving trails of blood with every fluid slash. It's unlike any other blade in existence, which is why we'd like to take a closer look and dive into its Bushido roots, influential design, iconic status, and pop culture fame. And, just in case you become obsessed over them as we did, we have some recommendations to add to your blade collection. Legend of Amakuni, the creator of the first katana. As we all know, perfection takes a bit of practice, which is why the first katana didn't have the familiar curved silhouette. The first known katana sword was a straight, double-edged iron blade inspired by Chinese swords. At the end of the 10th century, the Japanese severed cultural ties with the Chinese and went on to establish their own class divisions within their society. The military warriors guarding the society became the first samurai, and the Japanese began to make their way toward creating the famous katana. Although there isn't solid evidence as to who improved the design of the samurai sword, transforming it from a straight sword to a curved, killing beauty. Legend has it Amakuni was the swordsmith who forged the first single-edged longsword with a curvature in the Yamato province around 700 AD. He noticed half of the samurai came back from the battlefield carrying broken swords, especially after battling Mongolian invaders, leading him to redesign the samurai sword so that it would be nearly indestructible. Finding the best iron sand ore, he built the katana with a curve, making it optimal for slicing through the enemy. The myth states Amakuni's death is not known and he earned immortality from all the blood his blades absorbed. Bushido, Way of the Warrior. An elite member of the Japanese military, samurai were fierce warriors who followed the Bushido, which means Way of the Warrior. This code of ethics was a moral compass for samurai and consisted of several values, including courage, integrity, loyalty, compassion, and respect. They were armor-clad, civil-minded savages who made it their goal to live and die with honor. Their main weapon, the katana, was thought to be an extension of their soul. The katana was such a crucial part of a samurai's life that when a young warrior was on the verge of entering this world, the sword he would use as a protector was brought into the delivery room as if to greet the young one. And, when a weathered, old veteran warrior was on his deathbed, ready to cross over into the white jade pavilion of the afterlife, his katana was placed at his side, as if to protect him one last time. Masters of the killing stroke, each samurai had a collection of swords, a katana, the long sword, and a wakizashi, the short sword. Think of it as an equivalent to a rifle and sidearm pistol. The set was called a daisho, and if the samurai needed something extra up their sleeve, in case the opposition was daunting, the warrior would add a tanto blade to their collection. The wakizashi was to be carried at all times and even kept under the pillow while the soldier sleeps, as it was used for close-quarter combat, emergencies, and ritual suicide. On the other hand, the katana was the head honcho on the battlefield, cutting through flesh like butter and chopping off heads, freezing the stunned faces of the enemy. The art of sword fighting. An entire martial art was created to learn how to appropriately use the samurai sword, and it was dubbed kenjutsu, or kendo, which is its modern-day, non-military incarnation. The importance of studying kenjutsu was crucial for samurai, as their proficiency in the ways of the sword was a life-or-death situation. Those who didn't understand the intricacies of each weapon were considered uncultivated. Think of how useless a soldier would be today if he didn't know how to fire a gun in a war zone. The art of sword combat, as with all martial arts, had both a physical and spiritual level. Kenjutsu taught the samurai every single aspect of war, including how to effectively gaze at the enemy to rattle his cage, a concept that's been utilized ever since, most notably by a prime Mike Tyson. Taught by a swordmaster, a young samurai would learn everything from how to draw the blade efficiently and how to manipulate it in a battle to prevail. The mindset of the samurai was also rooted deeply in Zen Buddhism. In terms of sword mastery, the goal of the Zen way was to allow a warrior's thought and action to be one, making their movements instantaneous. In other words, samurai blended Zen Buddhism in training to allow them to draw their sword without hesitation and kill unconsciously. A young George Lucas admired the honorable, fierce way of the samurai, using many of their beliefs to create the Jedi in a little film called Star Wars. In Kenjutsu, there are 5 basic blows, from top to bottom, left to right to left, and straight through the throat. Samurai trained to slash like lightning and with a mind void of everything else but the mission. To execute an enemy in one graceful stroke was called nukiuchi, which only the best could do consistently. By the 12th century, the skills of the samurai became legendary. For example, there was the Japanese epic, Heike Monogatari, which was written about the Genpei War in the 1100s. It told the story of a warrior monk who wielded a katana with so much precision he stained his blade with the blood of 8 men in a few strokes. Kaishakunin. The katana was not only a weapon of protection but a mercy tool to assist in a ritualistic Japanese suicide called seppuku, which was carried out when a warrior brought shame to himself. A kaishakunin, or an appointed second person on duty for the ritual, is typically a samurai on standby who is ready to behead the person performing seppuku. The kaishakunin stands on the left side of the person committing the ritual suicide and draws his sword slowly and silently, raising it with his right hand, waiting for the seppuku to be carried out. The man performing seppuku would pierce his stomach with his blade to redeem his honor. Then, the kaishakunin double grips his blade and performs a downward cut, or kirisuki, beheading the former warrior. The katana helps the kaishakunin perform a controlled cut through the neck of the shamed warrior, relieving him of pain. Seppuku was a regular occurrence in feudal Japan. The 47 Ronin legend, a tale of masterless warriors avenging their leader, made seppuku well known, as the remaining warriors perform the ritualistic suicide in accordance with the samurai code. Deadly design, a weapon of war. In Quentin Tarantino's popular revenge flick, Kill Bill, master swordmaker Hattori Hanzo forges a katana so sharp it could cut God. For all the legend, myth, and pop culture hype surrounding the katana sword, it actually has a marvelous, revolutionary design. Masamune, a man thought to be Japan's greatest swordsmith, faced a technological hurdle in forging a sturdy, sharp sword. The samurai's blade had to be made in a way it would stay razor sharp, yet could still withstand furious blows in a duel. However, steel that's formed to be indestructible can't take a keen edge, which became the main issue. In order to jump this hurdle, Masamune and other swordsmiths used 4 metal bars consisting of a soft iron bar to protect the blade from breaking, 2 hard iron bars to keep the steel from bending, and a steel bar to be sharpened. All of the bars are heated at temperatures reaching 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit and hammered down into a slender, rectangular bar to create the Tamahagane steel blade. The swordsmith pulls the katana from the fire and plunges it into the water for a rapid cool down. Since the inner core contains small amounts of carbon, the blade can contract, forming the famous and functional curve. The steel would be sharpened to create the razor edge, and the soft metal made the katana unbreakable in duels. This special forging process creates the Hammond differential line, which is a critical factor when sword connoisseurs analyze a katana's artistic value. When the katana is fully forged, a professional sword polisher rubs the blade with a series of grinding and polishing stones, creating a mirror-like finish, perhaps so enemies might catch a glimpse of their reactions before death. The creation of a katana was so vital Shinto priests were called in to bless the process, as well as perform a spiritual purification of the swordsmith. Creators of these glorious katanas were considered artists, as they poured their hearts into the forging of these incredible weapons. In the golden age of the samurai between the 13th and 17th centuries, swordsmiths were as renowned as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. These rock star artisans were surrounded by myths, just like the samurai. A temishigiri, test cut, was performed with a newly forged katana by slicing through a stack of dead bodies or even live criminals. Of course, temishigiri could only be done by a master swordsman to ensure the quality of the build.